Tina, no?
Yeah.
Not only the sessions here in the morning, but also the films, no, that came after that.
Yes.
Siguro sync and
Yeah.
put up on the page. Uh, what we can do, we do in the
Yes.
and some will help refresh our memory and pick up the salient points of what please help with that.
Maganda. I yesterday who, even before he became a senator, was already interested in social enterprises, in MSME, micro, small, and medium enterprises. Then he shared the observation that in the 6 years under the Philippines, our economy, so we were no longer the sick man of Asia. However, there's a challenge because the challenge is to let this good economy go down to the masses in order and help so that they will share in this big change that's happening in the Philippines. And he said that the only way to do this, the plans of doing it, is to have inclusive growth, which he called a moral imperative. And inclusive growth can be promoted through the 3 R's. 3 M's. The first M is money. And these are loans from microfinance institutions like ASCII and from rural banks like BK. The second M is the market. When what is important is we lead companies to buy directly from the producers, because that is the only way that you remove all the middlemen gains and it goes to the farmers directly. Is mentorship, or helping the micro entrepreneurs to gain skills and knowledge so that they can grow their businesses. Became a senator, one of the bills that he pushed was the Go Negosyo Bill, which is now a law. And the aim of this Go Negosyo is to put up business centers in who help the MA to grow. That was followed by the very talk Gravin. He talked of economy firms and distinctive practices. What impressed me was Anouk put aside her prepared talk, including the PowerPoint, and because of the experience she has gained listening and to everybody around here, he decided to speak from her heart. And because she spoke from her heart, it entered our hearts. And she said, very interesting, she said, when Kiara launched the economy of communion in 1991, her goal was to help the poor, and therefore encouraged people to start businesses. However, Kiara did not show us the way. Kiara did not give a model, say, this is what you should implement. But Kiara left it to us. Left us to invent the way that we want to help the poor. And so companies began to practice EoC in many different ways. Some gave employment, some spread the culture of giving in many forms, others lived communion with everyone, the of sharing, and this sharing I was interested in this. This sharing included how much do I give the workers so I'm sharing with them, and how much do I price the goods so that I'm sharing with the ones who are buying. That's a new concept of sharing, no? And Anouk said, the giving of profit to the EoC is just symbolic of the giving that goes on internally in the business. There are practices. The first one he emphasized was trust. It is, and look at them with new, that they develop and bring out the best in them. Then she talked about participative, where there's reciprocity and shared decision making. She also said to recognize the gift that is in everyone. And another thing she said was, more than products and services, what is important is communion, the big relationships. Anouk said, EoC is not business, it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle that we all live together. It's a lifestyle that all of us individually should live. Okay. Anouk mentioned the fact that in Nairobi, they came with the conclusion, one company is not enough to show what EoC is. Many companies together can show the world what EoC is, because each one invents it in their own way. And we saw this was evident from the 3 companies, EoC enterprises, that shared their experiences. The first one, wow, was the Sum Sing Dang. Is that the name? But I will call it SSD to make it easier for me. Okay. The SSD of Friends and Amata. They had a bakery that started out, I like the way they said it. It started with 2 sacks of flour, which was given to them as refugees from the parish. And so they started making steamed buns in a train station. And it has grown by leaps and bounds. But something was lacking. And then, in 1999, they the Congress. And you see, in Manila, they found what was lacking in their business. And that important is to make man the center of the business. What is important is to create relationships. What is important is to be honest and pay taxes well. And they showed us how their company lives the rainbow life. And now they're big. They're everywhere in Korea, in South Korea. They are in supermarkets. People line up to buy their products. But humbly they say, it is not the credit ours. The credit is not ours. The credit is God. The credit is Kiara, who showed us the way to run an EoC enterprise. Then we got Lawrence. See, what I like about this was the experiences was from all over Asia. One in Korea, one in Singapore, and one in the Philippines. And Lawrence, I like Lawrence's story. You know what his story is? When he was a young boy of 16, he went to the Gen Fest, right? 1995. He went to the Gen Fest where Kiara talked about and challenged the youth to form a united world. In his simple 16-year-old mind, he said, how can I do this? But like any son of Kiara, he gave his yes. Well, the 16-year-old boy grew up to be an adult and started a business. And his business is called Consulus, is that the name? Consulus, which deals with global innovation and design consulting. And, oh, slow, okay. All right. His work is to serve companies who are at the crossroads seeking to make their business model grow. And you know what Lawrence discovered? People in businesses talk about unity. They like unity, but they do not know how to make unity possible in their companies. And so Lawrence injected that so that he can contribute to building this united world. And you know what he said? The way to do it is make these people in a company talk to each other. Communication is very important. Coordination between departments. Collaboration of different parts of the company. And you know what? He even went farther than that. He taught them the moment of truth, but he called it bonsai. So that by talking to each other, giving them, praising them for their good work, and then talking to them about where they can improve, they become better. They become more united. And Lawrence now is on the way to fulfilling Kiara's dream of building a united world in his own way in Singapore. Kabayan experience. And that's who themselves to be bankers. But even as bankers, they said, so what do we do? Okay? But coupled with that, Kiara launched the economy of Community One, and immediately Francis and Tess said, yes, we have to make our bank an economy of communion enterprise. Then Tess said they had a choice of markets, and a big choice that they made was to help the poor in the countryside. And so, in their business plan, they developed a plan for microfinance institutions. Microfinance, right? Okay. She said, this costs a lot of money. You employ a lot more people. You handle the records and so forth. But it did not matter. What to do was to reach the poor. And so they have microfinance centers, and in the afternoon, most of us went to visit such a center so that we could see for ourselves what Tess was talking about. And the feedback is excellent. People who went to these centers, and mind you, they went to different centers, but the surprising thing is they found the same thing in each one of those centers, such as the family atmosphere. They were like a family. The women and the account officer, they were a family. Also, that they had a sense of dignity. They had a sense of ownership. They worked together so that their loans are paid in time and correctly. And so what has happened now is these people feel good about themselves. They feel empowered. Who are just housewives are no longer just housewives because now they belong to a microfinance program. So, if you look at all these three experiences, we see how inventive they were in using EoC in their businesses. But they have a common denominator. And the common denominator is communion based on relationships of love.
Thank you. You can see how Lilia is our #1 recapper. She captures everything. Thank you very much, Lilia. She did it also out of love. My partner forgot to introduce himself. He's Gino Bulan, so you can call him Gino for short.
Hello.
And we wanted to show you earlier that there is a website, an English website of EoC, and as the live streaming is going on, you could actually watch in any part of the world what is taking place now, and it's also stored so that what you missed in the past, you can be able to see. We have a video recap of yesterday. We want to show that to you. So can we put that on now? So those of us who were not here or were not able to join the field trip can also watch.
I saw a lot of videos, no, and photos about the visits, the field trips, and I think you'd like to also
I'd like
mention,
to add, yeah, because six vans were not able to come on time to tell us what their impressions were of the field trip. And so I felt compelled to ask the Koreans and the other foreigners about what they felt about the trip. So very, very briefly, we'd just like to present to you a PowerPoint of what they had said. By the way, before we go there, I would like to mention that that was lost and it's found. Okay, very good.
So we were saved the time to announce the lost and found.
Yes, that's what I was going to do, but nah. Also, this afternoon, there is going to be a breakout session where we're going to try and incubate a few projects that probably are in your mind. So there is a breakout room where we're going to develop ideas of projects, business projects. So what we'd like to ask is, if you already have an idea in mind, if you could submit it in a slip of paper. So prior to that breakout session, we could already look at it and process what are the possibilities. Okay, let's go to the second page. This was really what they said. The concept of microfinance is different from the one we have in South Korea, but you can see the distinct love of the people for one another, in which they repay the loans and working consciously not to get into debt again by the group is not an individual effort, but a community effort. I am impressed with the life of Francis and Tess for this business that helps people get out of their poverty situation. They are building a community where members truly love one another. The Kapitan Center is similar to the one in South Korea before, which it is trying to return to once again. And then next page. In this EoC company, members make an effort to work for better living conditions for the community. It speaks of the solidarity that EoC represents. Through the Kapitan, the index of happiness is higher and is the basis of everyone's good nature. It is the solution to overcome poverty. With my experience in the Philippines, when I go back, I will think, and with the eyes of God, find a solution and try to make an effort to bring this about in my workplace. Thank you very much to those who shared the impression.
So, despite the traffic and the heat, the field trip really had many fruits for all of us and for the Congress. And now, Tina, we go back to our program.
Yes.
Okay. So, the next talk, actually, if I look at our program, it says an economy for all, which is the theme of this Congress. Okay. Now, the person who's going to speak about it, I asked him, how do you want to be introduced? He said, don't introduce me anymore. But I just remembered the last time he was here. And then he said that at the end of his life, what he'd like to be known for, or maybe what's written in his tombstone, would be Focolarino. So I would like to welcome back again and introduce to you a Focolarino who also happens to be the chief promoter of EoC all over the world. So let's welcome back Luigino Bruni.
Good morning. As I try to say at the end of my speech, the economic communion is alive because there are thousands of promoters. This is the secret. That everybody is the center, nobody is the periphery of the economic communion. And I think the beauty of this meeting is that there are so many people living in Singapore, in Korea, in Thailand, maybe without knowing each other, or even without never met here Lubik, or never met Luca, Nuk, and myself. But what is beautiful in any vocation, as I will try to say at the end, is that the seed, the engine of vocation is inside, is not outside. Then you can be maybe in the top of the volcano. You can be in the top of, I don't know why volcano comes so often to my mind. In the top of the Himalaya, but if you have received a vocation, you have the full economic communion, the full gospel, the full truth inside. This is the most beautiful element of any vocation, true vocation. Then also I prepared, maybe before starting the PowerPoint, I would like to say that the highlights, the recap are already programmed. It's not just we go back to the program because they are so beautiful. I really ask if it's possible to bring with us to Rome also all highlights, because they are so, they give the idea of what is going on much more than our speech, maybe my speech and so on. Then a beautiful, essential part of the program. Is not like the, as we call it in Italian, the aperitivo before starting the dinner. They are just the main course of the dinner, okay? No, I really would like to show you our website, because I'm sure you don't profit enough from it, because it's full of information. It's also full of my article. It's another story, but it's full of information. It's full of YouTube video, news, also material for formation. There are conference paper. There are also, for instance, all my last book I published in the last 3 years are online, free, chapter by chapter there, in English, also in English. Not because they're very important, but just to let you know. Also, today, the final part of my communion with you is I rebuild the rainbow. that is in English in the website for you, if you like to. Also the paper, what I said about plants last time is also one paper published in English, in French, Portuguese, Spanish, Italian in our website. Is Antonella Ferrucci she's the manager. She does a beautiful work. She's very devoted to that for you, in order to give you really as much as material as possible. Okay, now Luca and Maria Eugenia have prepared for me this PowerPoint because I prepare my PowerPoint thanks to the others during the Congress. This is maybe there are some of that, but thanks to friends like Maria Eugenia and Luca, sometimes it works. And then, but as you may see, the first few slides are mine, and the other are prepared by Luca and Maria Eugenia. As in the last day, the other day, is very clear to distinguish the second part from the second. And okay, an economy for all. I have to look there because I have not with me the whole material. Then I look a bit. Just two parts plus conclusion. An economy for all. What does it mean to me and to us? Second, the vocation, because the word of vocation has been always mentioned many times. Then I thought to give you a small gift, to offer you a reflection of what, according to me, vocation is. In particular, a secular vocation. Any vocation is secular, but in particular, vocation in the economic, political, social field has its own grammar. And maybe I will try to say something about that, and then a very short conclusion. Okay, an economy for all. Sorry for the English, can be some typos or maybe some mistakes, because has been not reviewed by Teresa. But this is one idea I would like to share with you in this first part, actually, in order to make the EoC an economy for all. Because now, in the present moment, the economic community is the economy for us. The presence of people coming from other cultural background, maybe people working in the social economy, in the NGOs, maybe endorsing other philosophies of life is not so huge. Now the economic community is basically an experience kept and, how do you say, loved and within the Focolare movement, with some elements outside, more in Europe. Maybe in Italy there are more people coming from outside the Focolare, even from outside churches and religions, but probably in other parts of the world, the economic community is still an experience. This is very important. It's not a sort of diminution, or say a sort of reduction of the importance of the economic community, but just as a matter of fact, up to now, the economic community is not yet an economy for all, but is becoming an economy for all. I mean, just to give you some hints, some suggestions, some reflection, what we have to do in order to make the economic communion an economy really for all. The idea I would like to share with you is very simple. In any charisma, you know, I don't know if you know what charisma means, but charisma is a very used, very common word in our family, but it's also a very common word in the Christian family, even in the because some authors, one famous European author, you don't know it, don't worry about that, is Max Weber, is one of the most important sociologists of the past century, that wrote many things about charisma in social life. That is not just a religious word, it's also a universal word. Anyway, but in any charisma, like, or maybe in any spirituality, you can use also a similar, not exactly the same, but similar word. The most fundamental operation, in my humble opinion, is always a spiritual operation. It's not something just practical. It's something very, very important. When I use the expression spiritual, I mean something very serious, something very important. Because the spirit is the most important part of our life. Is always a spiritual operation. Is to change the historical answers in order to be faithful to the original questions. What does it mean? When a charismatic experience starts, like the economic communion, you have two moments on this beginning. You have the problems and the questions coming into the mind of the founder, Chiara Lubich in this case. Chiara arrived to São Paulo. She was very much impressed by the inequality, by poverty, by skyscrapers together with favelas. Don't forget that. The problem is the wealth together with the misery, because poverty has been the human condition for thousands of years. What is a scandal is to have poverty beside wealth. This is the problem. Anyway, then that is, Chiara arriving in São Paulo, she met this show of inequality. Then some questions start to arrive to her. Some charismatic intuition, some problems. You can also call a question is important because it's the opposite of answer, but you can also call issues, problems that are the charismatic or original problems that are actually the DNA of the economic communion. These questions, those questions, came the first answers, but the answers are always historical, limited, contextual, passing, transitory, because they are related to the specific context of that time in Brazil 91. And Brazil 91 is not Seoul 2016. Okay? It's still beautiful, Brazil, even today, but the historical situation, even the favelas and the capitalism in 25 years has changed a lot. Thanks to God, sometimes, maybe not always. And then, which is my suggestion, also based on history, if you look at the history of movements, you see that the charismatic communities decline when they keep the forms of original answers and forget the original questions. Maybe they are very much attached of the historical forms of experiences, and they forget, and therefore they forget the original answers, the original questions. Then the communities flourish when they are able to change the answers in order to be faithful to the questions. A key operation in any spiritual experience, because if you are too faithful to the answer, you betray the questions. This is it's a sort of paradoxical reality, but people, this is what I'm also working as a research in this period, also together with Anuka and the people. If people living in charismatic realities, movements, they care too much. They interpret fidelity in terms of to be faithful to the historical solution, to the historical institution. They actually are making the highest betrayal of the ideal, because they just forget the charismatic issues. Maybe others. Okay, the original question of EoC. Then what is important today, in order to update the answer, is to try to understand the question, the original charismatic question of Chiara. Some of them, I just put the points, to the 3 points, as to say, there are many other questions that maybe I just mentioned some of them. First, how is it possible to link business and poverty? Because what is important, is a key element in the economic communion, is to put it together, businessmen and poverty, because the world is full of rich people helping the poor without touching any poor, or maybe creating NGO in order to avoid to touch poor personally. This is typical of many ways, not all, but some ways of understanding philanthropy, that to put together, to see poor, as Anouk always says, as entrepreneur, potential of actual entrepreneurs also, people with competencies, with the wealth, and not just with poverty. And then to imagine their business strictly linked to the poverty of the world. Paying taxes and then ask the state, the government, to redistribute wealth is not enough for the economic communion. It's a necessary condition, but not sufficient. Then, can companies be places and tools of communion? Question Chiara. Because when Chiara arrived to Brazil, to São Paulo, São Paulo, looking at the poverty in a city, in a big city, the normal way of imagining a solution of that poverty was to start a fundraising program, or maybe to create some charities or some foundations, because it's the normal way of addressing poverty. It's not to ask businesses far away, because businesses, the task of businesses or companies is not to create wealth for addressing poverty, because when the companies are very honest, very fair, the profit, as Anouk said yesterday, at the end of the day, in the bottom line is not so high. But Chiara addresses the companies because they understood that in order to change the capitalism, you have to change the basic institution of capitalism, that is company, business. Then can company be places, internal places, be also tools of communion? Can market be a place of fraternity? It is an important question. I would say universal question. In Philippines, in Korea, in Singapore, today, in 50 years. Then, can we imagine and create an economy and a society without no one in need? That was very important questions of Chiara. Chiara held the first community in Brazil together with Chiara, because also the economic communion, to be honest, was not just a one-woman show. Because Chiara had the inspiration, but the technology, what we called later the economic communion was also a collective action. There were people living there, suffering for years for an unjust society, suggesting Chiara the issues in Brazil. And also the name, the economic communion, came from Tommaso Sorgi in Italy, not from Chiara. Was a friend, he's still alive, he's a friend of Chiara, sociologist. Then any charismatic experience, in particular collective spirituality, is always a collective action. It's not Chiara just in her bureau producing the economic community. This is not the way of charism working actually. Then also other issues. Maybe it can be a sort of interesting exercise to fool these points with other issues. Just some of them, just sort of exercise. Okay. Chiara offered to the Brazil to us sharing profits. One third were the all. No, what we said at the very beginning, even the third or the third part reinvested in society is put in communion. It's not I keep 1/3 for me, because the growth of the company is a way of living community. Also a communion, also a way to creating new jobs. It's not just 2/3 in communion and 1/3 for me. This is not the interpretation. It's are different ways of living the same communion. Because communion is the vocation of human beings. If we are not in communion with the other, our life doesn't flourish. We are not altruistic person. We are just intelligent people understanding that the most beautiful way of living life is living in communion. If you are an entrepreneur, you are an intelligent entrepreneur if you live communion and community too. Helping also the industrial parks was an historical answer. I don't know if it will be a forever answer, we see, but was the way of the first incarnation in the citadels, not in Napoli Pace, but in other citadels. There are these kind of experiences. They also helping the poor of the Focolare community. As you know, the poor people helped in the first decades of the EoC are basically people living in our Focolare communities. That were the the first historical, concrete, actual answer. Okay? Okay, what it can be changed now in order to be faithful to the original questions? As Anouk and others already said in these days, community is much more than sharing profits. But sharing profits is in the DNA of EoC. Sharing profit is not enough, is not all, but if you have profits, sharing profits is part of living in the economic communion. You cannot say, no, okay, I have some profits just for me, I share just my talents. Okay, it's an immature way of understanding economic communion. Because it's not necessary to share profit, but it's good if you have them. And maybe sharing can also be means to reinvest all in my company for 10 years. There was an entrepreneur in Italy, very close friend to our Kyoto, Japanese, Yoko, sorry, Kyoto is a city, very important for Lorna, for the Kyoto Agreement on pollution. And as she mentioned in Santo Tomas a few days ago, Giovanni is an Italian entrepreneur. For a few years, due to a crisis in the sector of textile, his wife, Giuliana, weren't able to share profits. One day they told me, this year I put some thousand of euro for the poor, sharing externally the profit for my employees, because they make so great effort in order to work without saying anything for the poor. Then I put this 1,000, they were not there, that 1,000. Maybe he took from his own family portfolio, but he said, I do that for my employees, for giving them the hope that one day we will start to give again our profits even for the poor. The sharing is not compulsory, but is recommended if we have profits. Sometimes it's not important. But as Anouk yesterday said, the most important sharing of the entrepreneur is the personal entrepreneur. We want the person, not just the money. The money is not enough, because the highest talent of entrepreneur is his or her person. That is much more important than the money. Okay, the poor are not only the ones in the Focolare community. We know that there are billions of poor that are not Focolarino, unfortunately for them. For us, I don't know, because to manage billions of people is not easy. Then I just mentioned San Damiano. You know, there is the experience of St. Francis. When St. Francis received his vocation, very strong vocation, as you can imagine, he received this vocation, this calling, in front of a ruined, destroyed church in Assisi, in Italy, called San Damiano, San Damian. San Damiano is called. It was a small, destroyed old church. And Jesus asked Francis of Assisi, go Francis, rebuild my church. And Francis, in the first months, understood that he has to rebuild San Damiano. And he became, how do you say, a muratore? Yes. Brick, a lot of mason. He started to build physically San Damiano. After a while, he realized that the church was the Church of Christ. Then we started with the Focolare community that is our San Damiano. Because if you are not able to rebuild San Damiano, it's very difficult to rebuild the Church of Christ. Because it's a sort of test that you're doing something serious and concrete. What I really like, life is always concrete. There is not the church, there is this person in the church. If you are not able to build that church, it's very difficult to build a spiritual church, because life starts always with the concrete stuff. I like when Pope Francis said in Italy to a group of people, when you maybe give some money some coins to poor people begging in the street. Please touch the hands, because at least touch the concrete humanity of that person, not just leave the coin without touching, because human beings are always concrete, are bodily realities. No? Then San Damiano is important for the church, but it's not enough. I think we have to understand together that our church to be rebuilt is not just for other communities, but the poverty of the world, little by little. Of course, together, because the other community is too small for an economy of communion. We need covenants with many others, because the poverty is so huge challenge that it's impossible to think that with our companies and people, then this idea of embracing the poverty of the world can be done together with a lot of other people. Then I'm very happy that during this meeting there are people from ASCII, from NGOs working with us. Maybe we are at the very beginning, but we must work together in a fraternal relationship of reciprocity. We can offer our contribution, you can offer yours. Then each country and each person has to find the right answer in a given cultural context and time. There is not the same to help poor in Singapore, in Milan, in Manila, and in Washington. Okay? Then the answers are always plural, biodiverse, whereas the questions are more universal. Is okay? Do you agree? Thank you. It's a good starting point, the agreement. Sometimes in Europe, in the academy, we say, we agree to disagree. It's something you're already there. Okay, in this case, we agree. That's all. Then, the challenges of doing such a transformation of answers. First, any generation of EoC has to make the fundamental exercise to find new and concrete questions to the original answer. The principle of subsidiarity, to start from reality, concreteness. That personal poor Francisco working in the Batangan, that is the answer, not just the poor of the world. Doesn't exist for the world, exists Francisco. Courage. Tradition is always betrayal. This is also the Latin semantics, tradizione e tradimento are very close to one another. Betraying the original DNA is necessary and embodied in any good tradition. If you're stuck for the fear to betray Chiara, you don't do anything. Everything under the sun works in such a way. You must risk in order to be faithful. And third, fidelity and loyalty are always risky stuff. Just as an example, our children fulfill our promises if they are in the condition to betray our project and dreams on them. This is true. Any child can become better than us if we give them, to the children, the possibility to become worse than us. Because if we are too much worried about they must be better than me, surely they become worse. This is true, because freedom is essential in any transmission of life. In any transmission of charismatic life, because you must be in the condition to fail, even to betray, of course, unintentionally. Because tradition is a risky matter. Then, this is the beautiful golden rule of any true good life. Then we must risk, we must take risk, because risk is the only precondition of changing the concrete answer to be faithful to the original charismatic questions of Chiara. Is okay for the first part of my presentation? No, okay, thank you. And now, in order to conclude, there's about another 10 minutes, no more, maybe 12. In order to conclude this reflection on economy for all, conclude my speech at least, I would like to mention, to make a sort of, tribute to one of my best friends in the Bible, that is Noah. Because I like very much Noah for many reasons. Some of them I will show you now, but Noah is not a Jewish. Noah is a man. Because as you know, the first Jewish in the Bible is Abraham, that arrives after Noah. Noah is a man. Then is an universal story. Noah is a man as a Job is a man. They are not Jewish, both of them. That means that suffering like Job and the salvation of people like Noah are universal stuff, are universal business. Everybody can become a new Noah. Because Noah is, as I will try to share, and then is a universal, is an economy for all, because Noah is for all. And then the universal flood waters is also a universal salvation. As the flood waters was universal, also the salvation of Noah was universal. Then together with Luca that suggested me Noah instead of Job, because I was uncertain to choose one or the two, we choose Noah because of his universality, of his salvation. Then I'm starting to create in Facebook a group of friends of Noah, but it's not easy because I don't know the date of birth, but I will try to, because I'm so happy and so enthusiastic about this story. And also because, as you know, the first covenant between God and humanity was the covenant of Noah, that is called the universal covenant, because it's the covenant between humanity and God. And then is an economy for all. Okay. Then you have the Jewish covenant with Israel, with Abraham, also with Moses, but the covenant of, as we say at the end, with the beautiful sign of that covenant, the covenant of Noah is the universal covenant between God and any human being in the earth, under the sun. And then I tried to read a bit because I would like to be precise also for the translation. Not too much, but just enough. And the first major great work in the Bible, the first enterprises we know in the Bible is not the Tower of Babel. Before the Tower of Babel, there is the Ark of Salvation of Noah. That means, because I like the Ark of Salvation because Ark is an enterprise. It was a very huge ark. If you look at the book of Genesis, and also the building of the ark is a matter of work. It's also the description of the materials, the work. Then the first joint action of work is not the Tower of Babel that arrives at chapter 11, no, at chapter 6. The first collective action for making a work is an ark of salvation. This is beautiful. Then built by what is called in the Bible a righteous man. We don't know anything about Noah, only one thing, he was a righteous man. In Italian, un uomo giusto, a just man. And when the Bible uses the expression righteous man, it's very rare, only for very few people. One is Noah, the other is Job, the other is Joseph with Mary. That we just know that he was a righteous man. Then righteous is a very scarce, very rare adjective in the Bible. It is very important. When you find a righteous man, okay, this is something important. Then is a beautiful story. The story of Noah is also important because Noah means rest, comfort, the original meaning of the name Noah. And he was an heir of Seth. As you know, that Seth was the third son to Adam and Eve, given in place to replace Abel, that was killed by Cain. It's a beautiful passage when Eve says to God, "Thank you for this third son, because my son Abel has been killed by Cain." It's a beautiful passage. Anyway, rest, comfort, and Noah arrives in the Bible after the song of Lamech, the song of war of Lamech. I don't know if you remember, when Lamech said, for, how do you say graffio, when you receive a scratch in my skin, I killed a boy. And when you kill a boy, for any reason, but in particular for the stupid reason, the humanity was totally deteriorated. And then the Bible said, God saw how great a weakness of human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of human heart was only evil all the time. And so the Lord regretted, it's beautiful, regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. That is beautiful, that the heart of God is full of emotions. It's not like a sort of a philosophical God. It's very human. No? And then, therefore, God sends flood waters to the world. But on the earth has remained only one person righteous. That was Noah. Only one. This is beautiful. No? One. Our critical mass is one. In order to change a wasted world is enough to have one person, but must be right, just, righteous. Because then in the story of Noah we find the first grammar of every authentic vocation. This is my suggestion, my small gift for you. There is a sort of a structure, a sort of picture of every authentic vocation, sort of ID card of any authentic vocation in life. That is much more huge than just a religious vocation. Vocation is an anthropological stuff. It's not a matter of religious. Of course, religion is part, but it's not all. Which is this grammar of vocation? First, this a person who receives a calling. Noah receives a voice. Noah, go, save my people. Build an arch. Then there is a person receiving a call. Second, this person is just, is righteous. Third, there is an answer. Yes, I do. Noah doesn't say anything. It's a mute answer. It's a wordless answer, but there is an answer. The answer is to build an arch of salvation. They have a person, a right person, listening a voice, building an arch. Therefore, an ark. And finally, the fifth element of that vocation, Noah, as you know, is not an hero. Noah, once finished his duty, he became a farmer. He went back to be an ordinary person. Then this call is addressed to a new you with a name. This you was a righteous man, and therefore he responds to the call. Noah showed to be righteous by responding to the call. People, maybe there are people who don't speak much, but they often respond to a call just doing something. Then he responds to the call. And when the call comes, especially if it's the very important call of life, the righteous man or the righteous person gives an answer. And this answer can arrive at any age, 20, 50, 80. As you know, Noah's age was 600, according to the Bible. His word of God was a bit older, but what is important in this age, that vocation has no age. I know people that discover their vocation at 80, maybe 1 year before dying, maybe 1 month before dying. Because it's a matter of soul. The age of soul is very strange. That means that you cannot never judge one person before death, because maybe the last minute he will understand. is our vocation. For that reason, the Catholic Church declares sanctity just after that, and not before. Because you can change mind at the last minute. No, also the other way around. Then, the first sign of Noah being righteous is the answer to the call. But the second, what I really like, that is a very important sign that Noah was listening to the right voice, is the building of the ark, which gives content, a truth to that personal call. This is the key element of my meditation. I don't know what is my reflection. What the call, when the call to build an ark is not felt by the person called, you should always question the authenticity of that call. Without a task of building, without a task of constructing something, a vocation can be reduced to a pure experience of consumption of emotions, and therefore does not save anybody, not even the one that received the call. Many self-deceptions in life, not rarely neurosis, has also been hiding behind calls without arcs of salvation. Human communities, businessmen, businesswomen, and the world are saved every day from situations of degradation like the floods, failure, and radical crisis, only because there are few people who feel a call of salvation and build an ark. Because there is at least one such person. A single person can be enough for a story of salvation. In a company, in a school, in a community, you need at least one person. Then instances of salvation come because someone feels a call to save themselves and to save the all and start to build an arch. What if I like to conclude in my first part of this reflection on Noah, that there are different ways of understanding the relationship between vocation and ark. There are many righteous people who, at one point in their lives, feel the call to build an ark of salvation for themselves and for many. This call comes in various forms, but one day the crucial moment arrives when the righteous person realizes, I know a lot of entrepreneurs, realizes that if she or he does not build an ark, he wouldn't save his people, and neither will save himself. In other cases, however, I also like the other cases, in the first case, you hear a call, very clear, go build the arch. But there is other cases that I like very much. There is a person who becomes righteous because at a crucial moment of their life, they recognize a call in a voice and they respond to build an arch. Before there is a right person doing an arch. In the second case, there is a person that he's not yet righteous, but becomes righteous in building the ark. Then, in this case, is the ark that builds Noah. Can you understand what I say? That is the construction of the ark that creates Noah. In other cases still, no calling voice is heard, or maybe it's not recognized. The building of something starts almost always in response to the pain, to the suffering of the world, however, without a clear idea of the purpose of that work. Still, work is done, the ark is built, and a voice is expected. Sometimes this voice arrives during the construction work, but in other cases, in other times, the work is continuing throughout life, only waiting for the voice. There are many people that are doing that experiences. In such cases, the ark becomes the voice. and the call. And this voiceless Noah is no less righteous. There may be, and there are some arcs, this is sort of synthesis, there may be, and there are actually some arcs built with no voice, with no call, but there must be no calls without an arc built. Can you understand? There may be, and there are some arcs built without calling, without voices, but there must be, according to me, no calls without an ark built. Then the story of Noah closes in a cosmic contest scene in a fiesta of the world. I read, I have set my rainbow in the clouds. You know that the symbol, the sign of this new covenant is the rainbow. I have set, God said, I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Then I see that every time a righteous person builds an ark, that first covenant is renewed. And then I think what is very interesting, I think, as I will see in the final, maybe we can also read this beautiful sentence. It's beautiful for the Bible, not for me, but we are still saving ourselves, and with us the world is being saved. Noah, the righteous person, the righteous continues to live among us. The whole earth is in celebration, in fiesta, and we are given a new rainbow. Then the conclusion, we are new Noah. I think if we are here, we are new Noah, because each of us can find here or his own ark to build up. Maybe it can be a canoe, can be a, how do you say, boat, can be a pamphilo, what you like. It can be small, big, but there is no vocation without an ark. An ark of salvation. No matter how huge, large the ark is, but without an ark of salvation, at least one person to save, to rescue one, is enough, one person. Vocation do not flourish. People sunk in the floods of life, and we are together with them. Because I think vocation is building ark of salvation of others. I think otherwise there are vocations that are just self-consumption of spiritual emotion that are very sad. Then true vocation, in particular the economic vocations, are vocation for salvation. Then I think it's thank you, a happy anniversary. This is my email for any communication. Thank you. Do you like now a bit more Noah? He's a beautiful person, no? Yes, was a bit old, but no matter. 600. Okay, thank you for your unity.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you, Luigino. So I'm sure a lot of the entrepreneurs here, and maybe many of us, are now inspired to look for that ark to build, to save a lot of people. By the way, your talk, Luigino, inspired another Focolarino. His name is Rome, to be more entrepreneurial by announcing that they're selling 2 of your books there at the back, so that for everyone, if you want to read these books of Luigino, you can go to the New City counter at the back.
I was also told that if we could ask everybody to stand for a while, because it seems you have been sitting. So would you like to just stretch a little bit for a few minutes? Would you like to dance? For 3 minutes? Oh, sige, we'll fill out the dance.
So you see we have a very dynamic program. Okay. If we thank you for all the energy. If we judge the future of humanity by your energy, then we will not have any problems. So, moving back to the program. Thank you, Luigino, for that inspiration and the story of Noah, to be an inspiration for all the entrepreneurs as well. Now it's time to listen to some stories, no? Some stories about entrepreneurs. Of course, we'll start with a story coming from the farthest point to the south of Luzon, in Puerto Princesa. And these are stories of inclusiveness, how people who would generally be excluded in society are now part of enterprise building. So we'll start with the story of Eric Yayen, and I'll leave it to him to give you all the details.
Okay. Distinguished guests, fellow delegates, and friends of the Focolare movement, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am deeply honored to be part of this gathering to share my little contributions towards the growth and development of the deaf or persons with hearing disability and how they grew as individuals and as part of our business. Allow me to share with you how I met the Focolare movement. In 1979, our high school Filipino teacher, Miss Tarsila Gentu, invited us to a prayer group for the first-year students. And every afternoon, after the Mass at the cathedral, we would spend 1 to 2 hours to read and listen to the Word of Life in English and in Filipino. As Gen then, we became active in our prayer life and in cleaning the cathedral every Saturday morning in preparation for the Sunday Masses. Yes, we did that religiously for 4 years until we finished our high school. Every now and then, Focolarinos and Focolarinas would come and share with us the experiences in the movement. Chon Boktay, Lori, Matt Sendo. In August of 1982, we had a special grace to see and listen to Kiara in San Agustin, Manila, when she came into the Philippines. And I'm happy that one of my best friend became a Focolarino and later got married. He's the one working in the carpentry shop of the Focolare in Antipolo. His name is Alan Malolos. All of these experiences, meetings and encounters with the people of the movement became a strong foundation in keeping and living in the Jesus in the midst in every person I met. When I graduated from college in 1989, I spent some time working in Manila, but later decided to run a small business in Palawan. Being a young businessman then, my philosophy in life was to make friends and promote goodwill in our community. I never lost contacts with my friends. Never forget those people who helped me in one way or another. Me to have a stronger faith in God in all my trials, problems, and struggles. And one of those is the Focolare movement. I've been inactive in all sectors of society. You name an organization in Puerto, I'm a member of it. In my own personal belief, to have a strong foundation, you must learn to serve and share before you receive the grace of God. Pope Francis once said, ours is not a joy born of having many possessions, but from having encountered a person, Jesus in our midst. It is born from knowing that with Him we are never alone, even in difficult moments. We must remember also in our Novena, prayers of Mother Perpetual Help, reminds us to reach out and help those in need. This should help us understand that our life belongs to others as much as they belong to us. There are times when I have questions why we have questions. Why are we working? For what? For whom? Where do we want to invest our treasure? How should we spend it? Many of you here for sure are blessed with abundance of heavenly gifts or divine providence. In 1999, I started a venture in a restaurant business, thinking that I have a lot of exposures. My father died when I was 2.5 years old, and my mother was 7 months pregnant to my brother. Our life then was full of challenges, living in one place to another, from one relative to another. Our mother raised us through hard work and experience and a lot of hard times. I worked as a shoe shine and newspaper boy, buying into selling of scraps and irons and bottles, and helping my mother sell pots and pans around Manila as we lived in the squatter-like area. Looking back, I feel grateful to have done these experiences because in life, having this into these difficult moments, nobody can tell me how it is to be hungry, how to be alone, because I've been there. I've been there long time ago. In 1999, I was blessed when I opened Haim Chicken Inato in Puerto Princesa, which became a phenomenon business. Having a 30,000 capital and house, of course, an old structure. After 6 months, we sold 25,000 sticks of chicken every single month. The rest is history. Then we built new facility in our place. Gratitude is very important because of this, I never forget sharing my blessings to others. This is what God us want to do. I became more active in a community service project of the city government and that of the provincial government as a volunteer in many of their activities. I joined the Rotary Club of Puerto Princesa in 2002, where its core mission is service above self. Our club is the oldest in the district, 63 years in the service of the community. These are some of the projects of the Rotary Club. In 2009-2010, I became president of the club. I adopted one signature project, which is to collaborate jointly with the Deaf Evangelistic Alliance Foundation and their mission of doing hearing screening in all daycare centers in Northern Palawan. This is also the time when I opened the Kain Na To restaurant in Barangay Tinigiban, where purposely is to help working students wants to study and work as a working student, and to many single parents and those in poverty. If you can see, I'll just give you some data. Hearing loss in the Philippines, with a population of 103 million. However, there are only one ENT doctor for 207,000 people. There's only one audiologist for 3 million people. Hearing impairment ranked second most prevalent disability in the Philippines. 28% of the population have some form of hearing impairment. Can you hear me? In Palawan, there's a study. That around 31,000 people has hearing impairment that includes mild, moderate, severe, and profound hearing loss. The schools has been served by the community. Number of that has been served in Palawan. Main causes of hearing loss in Palawan is ear infection, ototoxicity, and inborn. Palawan has 15 schools that has program for special education. With 23 municipalities, these are the only municipality and municipality in the province that offers special education, and 5 home-based program under the Deaf Foundation. In the last 6 years of my exposure to hearing impaired persons, I learned a lot of things. Their behavior, character, attitude, the way of life, and generally their culture. A lot of them are sensitive in a sense that it seems to them disability is a liability. I saw this an opportunity to serve this person with disability. I remember when we were young, my mother used to bring us to Luneta, and there I saw deaf and mute persons working in the restaurant. In my own personal perception and reflection, I know I can do this too. I have to do it because I felt this is the will of God. Later, I realized that that is exactly what the gospel is telling us. Whatever you do to the least of my brethren, you do it for me. As a proprietor, I tell my employees that I would like them to join, to be part of our team. At first, I sense some disappointment in some of my staff. During my term as a president of the Rotary, I promised that this employed person, that I will help them to find a decent job for their families. In fact, I share a lot of my experience to my staff of how I feel every time I visit them in their homes. Them belongs to the poorest family with little education. I'm a passionate person in terms of serving the less privileged in society. I am not rich, but I have 1,000 friends who can pray for me and support me. In 2011, some of my staff enrolled in basic sign language class in preparation for person with disability. As they come in as a member of our family, we accept them as co-employee, support them, and treat them as normal individuals with no distinctions or markings that they are deaf. At first, there's a lot of unpleasant experiences, but interesting one. Some of my friends tell me that my food servers are lazy. They never come when they are cold. But later, they realize that they are deaf and mute. To help this situation, we put signages of basic sign language in the strategic location in our restaurant. So our customers will learn to communicate and learn as they eat. We notice that as days go by, our customers come to know that we have persons with disability working with us. We continue to hire them. In fact, we started in 2011 with 2. Now, there are 15 of them. Not working as a food servers, but also a kitchen assistant and an office encoder. As we grow, more are coming. Now, a lot of my colleagues in the business community and members of the Rotary Club, as well as those in the Chamber of Commerce, are already preparing to hire the deaf in their level of skills. With our experience, we earn the respect of, with our experience, we are able to open the eyes of the community for persons with disability, for them to have dignity that they basically need. The City of Government recognized our efforts as a contribution to the field of social services for this. We received an award this 2016, but recognition is not important. We did it, so are you. I believe we can help the deaf and mute. Their disability is not a hindrance. It's not a hindrance to improve their way of life, to increase their level of confidence in working in our businesses. Our acceptance and understanding of their situation is very important. Let me share some of my realizations in this journey with the persons with disability. For them to develop the self-confidence and be productive, here are some of the methods, techniques that I use. First, I made them understand the importance of our business. As a restaurant, as a tourism service facility, where I explained the mission and vision, as well as the basic knowledge of a cost income. Facial language and sign language, we encourage them from this to this. Second, I invested in building relationship with them through several team building in order to know them in more personal way and to increase their skills and confidence and for camaraderie. Third is the communication to adjust and help them in dealing with customers and co-employees. Fourth, I studied their culture and and understood that what they most like. Being with them once in a while made some home visits to meet their families and friends. Every now and then, I would bring them to small places of interest in business establishment to let them see things in other perspective. Lastly, I made them feel empowered by allowing them to decide for themselves. Let them know the plans and programs as part in contributing what they see is best for our business. We are one family as one body of Christ. I'll just forego with the sharing of my theft. Ladies and gentlemen, friends in Popularity, thank you for the opportunity to share our contribution to our community. Remember, we can do our share, do little things, if we just have to give a chance to change and make a difference in our spiritual life, in our community. Pope Francis says, to live charitably means not looking out but for our own interests, but carrying the burdens of the weakest and the poorest among us. God bless, and maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Eric, for this beautiful sharing. When I met the Focolare in 1989, I was so proud that I was belonging to a community of 186 countries with so many nationalities. And yet, when I met with my colleagues, anybody who met me afterwards, and I told them I was with the Focolare, they would say, is that the carpentry shop? And so I thought that it was more popular than the Focolare itself. And so they will talk about what they do in the Focolare Carpentry Training Center. May I invite Flora Flores to please introduce the program.
Good morning. Like any of the social initiatives of the Work of Mary, and in the Philippines and in many parts of the world, the Focolare Carpentry Training Center is also the fruit of an act of love inspired by the gospel. In 1967, to be able to provide livelihood to two young men from the mountain province, Carlo De Gasperi, an Italian focolarino, started a small workshop in Bangkal, Makati. Because their love could be felt in the quality of their work, many clients came to see them for repair of chairs, tables, beds, and other woodworks. Before long, they were already making new furniture. The demand for their services and work became numerous, and there was a need to invite more young men to train and work in the small workshop. The small workshop started to receive bigger job orders, and so it was necessary to move several times from one location to another. The new location was always bigger, with a bigger space than the last one. In 1989, with a financial grant from the Italian NGO Azione per un Mondo Unito, a 3,680 square meter land in Cainta, Rizal, was purchased and a modern facility was built. On May 21, 1991, the late President Corazon Aquino, with the assistance of several officials from the Italian Embassy and the Papal Nunciature in the Philippines, inaugurated the new site of the FCTC. While the majority of the facility was dedicated to commercial manufacturing activities, enough space was dedicated to the activities of the training program. These are some of the products of the FCTC. This is the new building now. Two classrooms were built for the academic aspect of the training program. There is also a dormitory for trainees coming from the provincial areas. There are also kitchen and dining facilities and some areas dedicated for recreation. We are proud of our facilities that have modern machineries that allow us to keep a high quality of output of our products that showcase the talent of the Filipino worker. But beyond the skills that we have learned and transferred to many young men, what we value most is the relationship that we have built with our clients, among co-workers, between mentors and trainees. A substantial portion of the profits of the successful commercial manufacturing activity goes to the funding of the training program. In 1995, the Bureau of Non-Formal Education of the then Department of Education, Culture and Sports awarded a certificate of recognition to the FCTC for the training being provided to out-of-school youth. In October 1997, the FCTC signed a Memorandum of Agreement with the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority. In compliance, the FCTC submits regular reports of the progress of the training program. The trainees who complete this 3-year program receive 2 certificates, one from the FCTC and one from TESDA. As early as April every year, we start the process of accepting applicants. They come from all parts of the country, from as far north as Lawag or Ilocos in the north, and as far south as Zamboanga. No? In recent years, we had 3 young boys coming from Palawan, no? The hometown of Kainato. Eric Yan. The training program is open to out-of-school youth whose family do not have the economic capacity to provide education or training for their children. They come from all different cultural, religious, and social background. Every year, we begin with as many as 30 qualified applicants. The trainees undergo a 3-year program that was developed together with qualified academic and technical advisors and was approved by TESDA. The program follows the concept of dual training system, which integrates academic training with hands-on training. A budget which is the result of a costing formula that allocates allowances, less training expenses, gives a net allowance for each trainee. The trainee becomes a full scholar with allowance. Aware of the potential of the Filipino out-of-school youth, FCTC envisions the skills training as a means to improve lives at the same time to provide not only skilled but value-oriented manpower for the industry. The trainee undergoes both theoretical and practical training. There are lessons in technical English, mathematics, technical drawing, tools, and machine operations. The trainee learns furniture carpentry through observation and actual application of carpentry schools on particular projects. Towards the end of the first year, the trainee, the trainee works together with the trainers and learn to read and execute working drawings. They work like a big brother system, no? We call them, the trainers are called kuya. In Filipino, this is big brother. The work experience starts from cutting the wood, using different tools and machines, assembly and finishing. The trainee discovers that the finished product is in itself more than just a piece of furniture. It is a treasure born out of the harmonious interaction of trainees, shop workers, and trainers. During the process of training, the trainee is transferred from one work group to another. This enables the trainee to acquire and apply carpentry skills and techniques. Trainees observe a strict study and work schedule, thus acquiring working habits necessary as they enter employment stage. The spirit behind this process is the desire for unity through unselfish sharing of knowledge and resources. Aside from the technical subjects, there are also lessons in values formation, family life, catechism for Catholics. From September to December, a basketball tournament becomes the main physical activity of the program. In the summer, trainees are brought to leisure trips out of town, often in a beach resort. From the first graduates in 1991, this is the recent graduation program which we had in March of this year. "242 young men have completed the 3-year training program. There was the first part, which is the BNFE program, and the second part, which is what we are adopting, we have adopted since 1997 and until now. Many of the first graduates we have employed when the carpentry was growing. From all of these 242 graduates, we have with us 73. Another 100 are already working with other shops. 18 are overseas. 15 are recognized artisans. 14 employed in other fields. Among these, there are 5 who have engaged in their own business. 2 of them are 2 of these shops that you see on the way up in the road from Santa Rosa to Tagaytay. No? There's one, Narciso Bohol, right after the PNP, and another one on the way up. One of the first graduates was invited by the Salesians and became a trainer of the Don Bosco Technical Institute in Laguna. No? He has retired from teaching and now owns a furniture shop. I think he owns 2. He is also invited as one of the judges in the Test Desk Skills Olympics. Since 2012, 100% of our graduates are immediately employed by other furniture or woodworking industries. The goal of this initiative is clear: to engage in an income-generating activity while teaching out-of-school youth employable skills. The program, which is integrated with Christian values, develops young people into becoming concerned individuals, aware that they will be responsible tomorrow for what they do today. Let me conclude with a short video that was shown in in one of the popular news programs in the Philippines. Thank you.
Some boys who used to just roam the streets now have new hope because of the skills they have acquired in designing, carving, and creating furniture. Instead of falling into vices or just roaming around the streets, some young out-of-school boys are under the care of the Focolare community. At the Focolares Carpentry Center in Cainta, they are trained in designing, carving, and creating wooden furniture.
The intention is to make them active members of society after 3 years.
Those who succeed in entering the 3-year program of the Focolare receive free training and even an allowance. Aside from hands-on carpentry training, they are also given values formation.
Our program is holistic. We also give them values formation.
One of the boys who have been given new hope is Jeffrey from Palawan. Even if he has to be away from his family for 3 years, Jeffrey's joy is overflowing as he thinks of the new life awaiting him after he finishes the training course.
Here you can really increase your knowledge and understand what you would like to do with your life. I really enjoy furniture making.
Richard started as a trainee and is now a senior craftsman.
The family is truly important to us. Working here, I can continue to help my family and I can support the studies of my brothers and sisters.
Many of them eventually find jobs. And in the last 3 years, most of our graduates have found employment and are sought after by many companies.
They often tell the youth,
You are still young and there are many great opportunities waiting for you. You cannot just say, I am hopeless.
Okay, maybe together we can thank Eric and Floro for that very nice and inspiring story. Okay, now we can take a break. Can we please resume promptly in 30 minutes? Okay, and during the break, of course, it's an opportunity for us to network and talk about our own little stories and impressions about this morning. So see you in 30 minutes. So it's been cut short a bit. So now it's 10:38. So there's a proposal to get back at 11. Okay, 11 o'clock. Easier to remember.
Excuse me, the panel for second generation, the next panel, can I just quickly see you? That's Joyce, Fides, Jojo. Are you here?
shall begin.
So the next. Okay, we will resume with our program. So may we have your kind attention, please. So the next segment, no, is about passing on values.
It's really one of the challenges of EoC enterprise nowadays, that we deal with questions of succession.
Because usually the businesses outlive, no, the founders and the initiators of an EoC enterprise.
So today, we're going to have a panel discussion of second generation of the original entrepreneurs. So we start with introducing our resource person, who is going to be the moderator of this discussion. You've met him earlier, so I don't think we need to introduce him again. Mr. Luca Crevelli will be our moderator.
Hello, Luca.
Yeah.
So, Luca, you'll be joined by the next generation entrepreneurs. So, actually, the first person who will be sharing with us is not a second generation entrepreneur, but a fifth generation entrepreneur. So from Meet World International, she's doing HR and finance in their enterprise. Let me call on Joyce.
Alcoreza.
Joyce Alcoreza to please join Luca
The
on stage.
The other second generation entrepreneur is the corporate planning head, and she's the one who dictates the strategy and controls the budget of Banco Kabayan. May we invite Fides Ganzon of Resio to the stage, please.
Earlier, you heard the dad talk about his experience in another enterprise. Now, the daughter is going to talk about their experiences in a previous enterprise of Loro, which he founded. So we will call her daughter Pinky, who does HR and general management for APSEI, APCEI.
And then another panel member used to work for 4 years in Pro Diet, which is the business of her parents. Now she's a public relations person and has 2 businesses of her own. May we call on Rafa Tortelli to the stage, please. From Brazil. And finally, we call to the stage the only male second generation entrepreneur who follows after Tita Puangco. He is none other than Jojo Puangco. He just arrived, actually, running through the traffic. He's in the restroom. Okay,
So
he will join us in
He will be joining shortly.
Okay.
So we'll pass the mic to Luca and, of course, these young ladies.
Wait for him. Renato is coming? Yes. Hi, Renato. Just to help me not to be alone as male on this stage. But I think it is a very nice sign that vocation has really something to do with also gender. No? We know that there is, let's say, a predestination for female to feel these voices in a louder way than sometimes male do. So let me start by reminding a question that we received at the press conference at the University of Santo Tomas. One of the journalists, a female journalist, very intelligent, asked us about the failure rate of EoC companies. She said, how big is the death rate of EoC companies? And what we know, I mean, we don't know a lot about what happened really in our community of businesses. But what we know, looking at the statistics, is that if you look at the number of EoC companies worldwide, you observe that there is a substantial stability since 10 years. So it seems, let's say, a static, steady state, and not a very, living story. But it's not completely true, because we know that every year there are at least 10% of new companies entering into the project. But of course, if the number remains the same, there is also a 10% of the companies leaving the project. So I think this is not striking, not surprising, because the majority of our companies are small and middle enterprises. And we know from economic studies that these kind of institutions, they have, let's say, an intrinsic dynamic that bring, in a certain sense, a continuous change in this fabric of organization. So all small and middle enterprises are at risk to die. And we know that from the startups, after 5 years, let's say 50% are not anymore alive. So now, I think the tricky story is that in EoC, we can at least disentangle two elements that may influence the death rate of the companies. The first element could be divine providence, because we say we have this hidden shareholder, which is God, that maybe is an additional resource to help overcoming the difficult moments of the company. But on the other hand, we know that EoC is not a guarantee to avoid pain, to avoid difficulties. It's not an insurance contract that we sign. It's not that we say, okay, since we are following a voice, then everything would go very good. So it's not for granted that we have less difficulties. Maybe it's even, the probability is higher, because EoC companies have at least 2 ways of dying. One way is the ordinary way in the market. If you are not able to innovate, if you are not able to keep on with competition, then the market, is the rule of the fittest, is not looking at you and saying, okay, but you are very, very polite, it is very, hard. But there is a second way of dying. And this is the spirit of EoC. It's not for granted that the spirit go on. So I think it is very important, and this is, I think, a crucial challenge of our project, to study, to accompany, to invest energy into the transition from one generation to the other. But there is maybe a joke that says the transition from the first to the second generation means usually an increase of the company, an improvement, and the transition from the second to the third mean often the death of the company. So we are here now to listen 5 stories. And not all stories are completely related to EoC, because the transition from one generation to the other is something that we share with all small and middle enterprises, family enterprises in the world. So we have here also to have, let's say, a randomized control trial. We have EoC companies and non-EoC companies to understand whether this transition is easier or more difficult, depending on which kind of company we have. So the idea is we start with a statement. So everyone start introducing his own company, his own activity, and then we move on with some questions. So I have some questions, and maybe some other will arise after your introduction, and then maybe we can even open up the floor to everybody to know what they would like to know from you. So let me start by Joyce.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Joyce Alcoreza, and I work in a family business. The name of the company is Meat World International. You probably are not aware or familiar with the name of the company, and it is because we carry several brands in the supermarkets. We are in the meat retailing business. So we sell fresh pork and beef in supermarkets all over Luzon. We have more than 300 stores. And they come in different brands. Some of them are actually brandless. So I'm a fifth generation entrepreneur. My father actually broke away from a tradition of butchers in his family. So my father, because the Alcorezas are very big and stocky people, and as you can see, I'm not like that. And it's because something happened somehow in the genetic makeup of my father. So he's also very, very small, and he could not keep up with the big butchers around him. So he took it as a challenge. So he broke the mold. He said that if I cannot be a butcher, then I'm just going to cut the hair of pigtails. You know, pigs, they have tails. So he cut the hair of pigtails, and then he sold them and to be converted into paint brushes. Yeah, so that was his first business. And then after that, he got involved in financing newspaper boys or shoe shine boys. So he would finance the production of the shoe boxes, and then he would rent the shoe boxes out to the shoe shine boys. Yeah, so he did a lot of many different kinds of businesses, but deep in his heart, he's a butcher. So he decided that I cannot slaughter animals, so I'm going to sell meat instead. So he helped his parents sell meat in the wet market. And he's also very, very lucky to have met a woman who has this fantastic sense of customer service. Yeah, so together, they made a very successful team and was able to grow their meat shop inside a wet market in Makati into what it is now with more than 300 stores all over Luzon. It's quite interesting that for most people, for most parents, their dream is to pass on the business to their children and for the children to join the family business right after school. But in my case, it was the reverse. Business had been very, very difficult for my father. So he sent us to very good schools, and he wanted us to join international companies afterwards. But early on, I'm just not the employee type. So I don't like having a boss. I want to wake up when I wake up, you know. Yeah. So one day, well, because he didn't want me to join the family business, I seriously considered joining a Swiss finance corporation because I'm a quantitative economist by academic background. But then again, my eldest brother was very supportive of me, talked to me and said, you know, don't be crazy. You know that dad's just like that, you know. At the end of the day, we will prevail. So the following morning, I went to my dad's office. He has one big desk there. I cleared everything on his desk, put them in a box, and then I issued a memorandum. From this day onwards, all vouchers will have to be signed by me. No money is gonna get out of this company without my signature. And then my dad came and he was so surprised to find all of his stuff in a box. And before he could say a word, my brother and my mom came in, and that was the end of the story. So we had to buy a little desk for him. So that's me.
Hi, good morning. I'm Fides. I'm in charge of corporate planning for Bangko Kabayan, which you've already heard about. What I do in corporate planning is basically I oversee the implementation of the plans and programs that have been laid out so that we follow the strategic direction of the company, which is anchored on the vision. And at the same time, spot for new opportunities that may come within the year, within the month, that is not part of that plan, and see how it can be still aligned with the vision. They also mentioned that I also sit in the budget committee. So a lot of people hate me. No, but yeah, just to make sure that our activities are financially sound, and that we don't have and that we stop doing that X budget practice that happened before. X budget is like you that's how we label it. There's an activity and it wasn't planned, and all of a sudden you're going to spend for it. X budget. I joined Bangko Kabayan 10 years ago. And before, when I was in college, high school, college, because I studied in Manila, I really had no plans of joining the bank. I wanted to be a lawyer. But in fact, when I was when I was younger, whenever we go home to Batangas, which is where the bank is, on weekends, I would find it really very boring, and I couldn't wait to go back to Manila, to the city life. So I never imagined myself settling down in Batangas, in a very small town in Batangas. Until sometime during the third year of my university, I had this course, development economics. I studied management economics in university, by the way. So I came home from class, and I was studying part of the textbook, and suddenly I started crying. So it was a really weird experience for me as a college student. I mean, you know, how many students cry after reading an economics textbook? So I found it really weird, and at the same time, it was sort of a revelation for me. So I went to the nearest internet cafe because, we didn't really have too many Wi-Fi spots back then. And I emailed my parents immediately. I told them about what happened, and then I told them that I know that my plan is to be a lawyer, but maybe for maybe 2 years I can help in the bank, because I know that you're doing something there that is right, and that was the time that they were starting microfinance, and I want to help out in that part of the business, because I don't know something happened to me today, and I just want to help out. Maybe for 2 years. There's always that timeline. When I joined the bank, so after graduating, I joined the bank, and my mom said, I know you want to work in the microfinance department, but I don't need you there. So I'm going to put you in HR. So, which was again not in my plans, but that's when it started. I helped in HR, and I started by having one of the most difficult positions in the bank, which is being my mom's EA. And for those who have worked with her, you know how that feels. Sorry, Mom, I have the mic now. So, there. That's how it started. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pinky. Our company is Asia Pacific Circulation Exponents. We engage in the distribution of publications, mainly magazines and newspapers. So we sell them through telemarketing, and we also have outlets in the bookstores and in the small kiosks that you see in the mall. That's where you will find our products. The business was started by my father and a friend of his in 1986. And since the very beginning, both partners always envisioned bringing ahead the company as a family. The motto of my father was, whatever you do to the least of your brothers, you did it unto me. And seek first the kingdom of God, and everything else will be given to you aside. So when Carol launched the EoC in 1991, it was immediate for my father to adhere to the principles. And in 1992, his business partner decided to engage in a new company abroad. So he bought the shares. And since then, the company has been part of the EoC project. I joined the business in 2004. It was by chance because both my parents are married Focolarini, and they were asked by the Focolare to go to South Africa to help bring ahead the new families movement there. So I finished actually secondary education, and I have a degree also in psychology. I was a teacher before joining the company. But when my parents left in 2003, at the same time, the general manager, who also handled the human resource department, migrated to the US. She received her petition and she moved to the US. So my father invited me to join the company since I had a degree in psychology. So it was this, for this reason that I joined the company. In the beginning, my goal was, of course, to make the company profitable, more profitable, no? And so this was my mindset when I entered the company. And maybe because I was focused on this one, I forgot about the motto of my father. I always, my goal was to put up company policies and procedures, because when my father was sitting there, it was, of course, spontaneous for him to make decisions. But since he was no longer, he was trying to follow us through emails, but the daily managing was up to me and my brother and another general manager. And so I was set on making company policies. But later on, I realized that this was not the way. We also experienced the crisis in 2008. And it was then when my father came home, and it was the first time that I worked with my father. And there I saw in him what he meant about putting the person in the center of the business. No? The first thing he did, together with my mom, was to give up the privileges that they were getting as owners of the company. And later on, they also had to even put some of our properties at stake so that no one in the business would lose their job. And we had to make certain cuts in the business. But all throughout, we have been communicating with our employees. Many of them are delivery men who really live by the minimum wage. So we always dialogued with them, no? And there was this effort from our part to really reach out to them. Later on, we found out that there was a group of delivery men who wanted to put up a labor union. And initially, I felt betrayed because these were the very persons that my father always loved. And in my heart, I was saying, but how can they do this when all these years my father was trying to love them, no? But then when the way my parents reacted to the situation with such humility converted me, I realized that it was not their intention to put up the labor union was not against my father, but a reaction towards me, since I represented already the new generation that will bring ahead the company. And so, awakened by this realization, I remembered the motto of my father, which was just to whatever you do to the least of your brothers, you did it to me, no? So after that experience, I resolved to increase my love for the employees. Particularly this group of delivery men who wanted to put up the labor union. And so I was with them in all the, instead of just sending our lawyers and my HR assistant to all the meetings of the with the Department of Labor, no? I was with them, I went in all the meetings, and since the presiding officer who would manage the meeting was always late, I would have the chance to talk with the delivery men, ask them about their families, the situations of their children, and sorry. And so it was in this way that we were able to, I was able to build this relationship with the delivery men. And when the voting for the labor union took place, it did not win. The labor union did not win, so the formation of the labor union in the company did not push through. And this was, to me, the awakening part of really the way that we have to bring ahead the business.
Hi, my name is Rafaela Tortelli, and I'm from the south of Brazil. I major in public relations, and I work for Association of Companies, which is a part of EoC in Brazil. I also own two companies, one that sells accessories online, and another where I work with events along with my partner. My parents used to have a business which sold medicines for hospitals. It was part of a group of companies called Prodite Group. One of the companies of the group was Prodite Farmacêutica, one of the first companies to join EoC in Brazil. I joined the company of my father. There's nothing special about it, just because I needed a job, so it's different than the others. But in case, yeah. But then my experience started after this. So when I was 17, I started my degree at the university, and I needed the job. So at the very same time, I began working at my parents' business. After a year selling medicines, I was offered to work at the marketing and communication area. Working there for 4 years was unique in my life. I don't know if I can tell everything now, or maybe we had time after. Okay, so at work, all the employees and me could feel the values of EoC affecting our lives and relationships every day. We used to say that people were touched by the values so much that they wanted to act and live likewise. My dad always say that the human being is in the center of everything, which means first of all, we have to care about people and their feelings. At the time, I remember my dad being friendly to everyone, and my Xbox, yes. At the time, I remember my dad being friendly to everyone, and my mom, likewise, having long and helpful conversations with the employees who were in need of advice. Besides that personal care for each employee, the value of EoC I always admired in the company was the ethics. Our company was known for being ethical and not involved in corruption, something very common in the health area in Brazil. And I'm proud to say that we were not like them. We could live differently for the principles and values we believe and apply in our lives. Now, speaking as a daughter, I can say that for many reasons, it wasn't always easy to work with my parents. But that's normal, isn't it? Disagreements are completely understandable when working with your family, mostly because we are from different generations. And for this reason, we think and act differently. On the other hand, for me, the good thing was that I realized how much we could learn with each other and benefit from it. Now I have a question for you. Do you think that it's okay to have a disagreement at work? Yeah? Okay. So can you imagine what it is to have a disagreement with your boss and still go home and have dinner with him? It was a little hard, but also very funny. So, the good news is that EoC is all about sharing. Just like Anouk told us yesterday, we can share all things that are difficult. My experience was that as a family, we always talk to each other and share our feelings. And now I can say I was blessed to have my first job at the Prodite Group. With the help of my family and EoC, I could master that the human being has to come first, and that made a big difference in the way I conduct my business nowadays. Another important learning for me was when, for several reasons, my father decided to sell one of the companies of the group. It was hard indeed, as a daughter, to see the company in the other people's hands. Sorry. Sorry. In other people's hands, after 20 years of intense work of my dad and his staff. Yet, it was for the best, and we all knew that. We took it as a blessing experience for our family, and at the point, we understood that when we focus our life in something bigger like EoC, life smiles right back at you. Today, my family has other companies, all from EoC, and as I had told you before, I don't work with them anymore. And do you know why? Because with them, I understand the vocation of being an EoC entrepreneur, and I decided to be one.
Good morning. So this is going to be a bit difficult for me to speak at a slower pace. So forgive me if I pause a little bit too much, okay? I have to reorganize my thoughts. So my name is Renato Puangco. I'm the son of Tita Puangco, and I work for Anchila Enterprise Development Consulting Incorporated. So we do enterprise development, which means we handle the business side of things and the organizational side of things. So that's what we do for our clients here in the Philippines. I am currently the Chief Operating Officer, the COO. It also stands for Child of the Owner. And my job is to objectively have arguments with my mom, okay, to check if the direction and if the objectives will be met, if she has new initiatives. I think it's my role to play the devil's advocate from time to time. I know it's not easy working with your father or your mother in the same company, but we all get along. At the end of the day, we have dinner and breakfast and lunch. So I still live in the same house with my mom. So it's pretty much a similar setup with Rafaela. Okay. How did I get into the company? I never had the slightest intention to be or to join my parents' company in the first place. All I wanted to do growing up was to make art, to shoot films, and to write music and to perform. And I almost pursued a track in film and advertising as a director. And I remember back in 2009, I was being offered a job at one of the major publishing houses here in the Philippines as a creative director. And I had to make a decision between joining my parents' company as part of the succession plan or to join the media publishing company. And it was if I'm not mistaken, a Friday morning. And it was my mom and my dad who invited me for breakfast. Okay, so they talked to me about the future of the company and asked me if I wanted to join. And something I realized something that morning. A lot of my friends from high school and college keep on telling me that they want to start working early so that they can form or set up a business. Okay, and here I am, okay, and the business is already in front of me being offered by my parents. So it's the other way around. I don't need to work per se. I just have to get in to this business. So I wanted the easy way out. I said yes. I said yes, initially. And then I've been with the company for 7 years now. And I'd have to say that we're doing quite well. And what I enjoy the most about being with Anshila, which is an EoC company, is that we are able to help people. We are able to help people in two different ways. One way would be through the EoC. No? We are able to give monetary support. That's one thing. And the other thing is that since our company is geared towards learning and development, we are also able to help other people, our clients in particular. And we're able to give them something sustainable, something that they could use in their day-to-day lives. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Before we move to the question part, I would like to ask how much time do we have? 13. 30. Okay, half an hour. Okay. So I have some questions. Some are more easy and other are maybe more difficult. I don't know, what do you prefer, if I start from the difficult ones or they are over and then we leave the easy one for the... No, I think it was very, for me, very touching this morning to listen about the vocation. No? The vocation is something that may happen in the life. So you hear a voice, as Luigino said to us, or during the execution of the construction of your arc, you become a vocated person. So we heard a little bit about how you entered into the company, some entered and exited the company, but can you tell us something more about your vocation? Did you felt a different vocation than your parents, or this moment has already happened in your life, or you are still waiting for this voice? I mean, I give free, it's not a mandatory question, so who wants to speak and say something about that, please?
I'll go first. I found my vocation today, this morning. During Luigino's talk, he was talking about the question, and I reflected on it, and then I asked myself, what was the question? Why are we here in this business? In particular, why am I here? Because for many years, I've been considering entering a religious life. And, but before I jump into that decision, thank you. Before I jump into that decision, I always find myself in a situation where things change and I just can't leave. So one day I went to, because I went to an Opus Dei school. And but during my 4 years in that school, I was always running away from my mentor, because we have a one-on-one mentoring system in that school. So I always would try to avoid that mentor. And in fact, in 4 years, I think I saw my mentor twice. And we were supposed to meet every week. So I was very successful in that aspect. Yeah. So anyway, later on, when I was at the thick of my career, I realized that I wanted to do something, because I really enjoy praying and meditating and spending time alone in the Blessed Sacrament. So I said, I think I would be really, really happy if I could enter a monastic life. So I went to Europe well, out of whim, actually. I just didn't know what to do. So I went to Europe with my backpack, And I found myself in Rome. I flew from Manila to Paris and then found myself in Rome. I don't know how that happened, but, but I was there. And then went around Italy, and then in Siena, which is quite provincial, I was at the bus station waiting for the bus back to Rome. And somebody shouted my name, Joyce. And I was so shocked, you know. In Siena, who would know me here? You know? No, I did not commit any crime. So when I looked back, it was an Opus Dei guy I went to school with. And he said that he was going back to Rome. And he said if I would like to visit the Opus Dei Center there. And so I went there, and there were lots of people there. And, you know, it just made me realize that my vocation is to work. You know, so I went back home. But then again, there are things that happened again. So I really was oriented towards the religious life. And right now I'm not, well, before this morning, I wasn't really sure. But when Luigino mentioned something about the vocation, and then I realized, yeah, this is my vocation. Because in what I do, I am, in fact, able to express my love for God. I am the sort of person who has a very big bubble. You know, I don't like that bubble being encroached in by other people. So when I'm in a small space, you know, I feel very uncomfortable, and I don't talk about my personal stuff. Yeah, so, but in my work, I am able to, I think, touch the lives of other people in a myriad of ways. Sometimes it's just a matter of asking them, you know, how's your wife? You know, if I know that someone's wife got sick, and then that person would cry and said, oh, she passed away. You know, or how's your daughter? And then they would tell that, oh, she has cancer and she lost her eye. You know, so there are also very little revelations that happen. For example, during training, and someone would share the story of how they became involved with the company, and they said that this guy particularly, I was touched because he said that when he entered our office to apply for a job, he didn't have a single centavo in his pocket because all the money that he had to pay for the jeepney fare to get to our office. So, and then when he was being interviewed, he was qualified for the position, but he needed to present an NBI clearance. It's a police clearance, you know. And then he went to the bathroom, to the toilet, and then he cried because he doesn't have money to get that clearance. And he was told that it is a very important thing, a pre-employment requirement. And he prayed that the person attending to him allows him to start working, and then the NBI clearance would follow later on. Because if that does not happen, he will just commit suicide because it's the end of the line for him. You know, he has a family and a special brother. I mean, a brother with special needs to attend to. So anyway, when he went back to the office, the boss, the HR manager came, and he heard the manager saying, "Ah, it's okay. He can start, you know, today if he wants to." So that was a big relief for him, and right now he's one of our supervisors. He plays a very important role in the company, and we hear many stories like that. And when I think about how happy I am when I pray, now it makes me realize that I'm also very happy when I'm able to touch the lives of people in whatever. I don't need to know how we are affecting their lives. In my heart, I know. It makes me, doing business, especially a family business, brings a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. And sometimes you feel like this is too much, you know, I deserve a break. I think I've worked hard enough, you know. I deserve to travel. Yeah, but at the end of the day, you feel that your needs or your wants are much, much less than the needs of thousands of people, you know, working with you, for you, under you, in whatever capacity. So this morning, I realized that business is actually also a vocation. In what you are doing here at the EoC, I'm a newbie here. I really don't know much about the EoC, but it is very clear to me now that business is indeed a vocation, because you cannot do it without putting your entire heart and soul into it. I mean, you cannot do it properly, I would say, you know, because it's easy to make money in business. With some ability, some connections, you can really make money. But to make money in a meaningful way, and that actually changes the lives of others, that's different, and that is a vocation.
When I told you my story earlier about that moment, I don't know if that qualifies as the call. But ever since I was young, I think college, when I was in college, my dream was, in a phrase, was to change a statistic. That's how I was, because you know how college students are, they're very idealistic. I didn't know exactly what, but I said, I want to change a statistic. And that, of course, that's related to, you know, helping people, or generally helping people. That's why maybe it made sense for me to join the bank, because I knew that my parents were already doing it through the bank. And I think since I joined, I've always considered my work in the bank not just a profession, but as a vocation. Of course, you know, in your day-to-day work, you may I may not feel that, you know, your paperwork and all your you know, the budget and all that and all the programs, but there are some instances when I stop, most of the time during the difficult times, that I stop and ask myself, why am I here in the first place? And then I go back to that original question, that I am here because this is my vocation. You know, I have to admit, because like I said, I grew up in the city, and I am still very much in touch with my friends, and I'm actually a partner of other businesses. Like I started a business with my friends. We are into the fitness industry. We have it's not a typical gym. It's a non-traditional gym. And we are also growing that business. We have 7 branches. And of course, I sit in the board and I see the figures, and I see their payroll. And I mean, I'm not complaining about my salary, but you can't help but, you know, compare sometimes, because of course you live in the province and there's such a thing as salary structure. You can't just distort that because you're a COO. But I see, for example, the salary of some of our fitness coaches, and they're, wow, earning this much. And then I aside from that, all my other friends who are in, you know, much bigger corporations. And then again, I stop and ask myself, why am I here in the first place? It is much more than career, professional, or financial growth, but it's because, you know, you are living your dream towards, you know, changing that statistic, no matter how small or big that can be. So So there.
As I mentioned earlier, no, my awakening was with this experience with the delivery man, no, but the vocation grew as I went along, and I saw how lives have been transformed because of the way my father brought ahead the business. I remember in the beginning, from the very beginning, there was this delivery man who has been with my father even from a former company. And later on, his son joined the company and he too became a delivery man. No? They often will tell me that through the help of my parents or because of the company, they were able to send their children to school and finish college, unlike them, that they were not able to finish college. And one of them finished a marketing course and they joined the company. And to me, this was, a big realization how much our companies can actually transform lives in this way, And then just recently, I came to the office, I arrived. It was just last week. And there was this man, an old man, who greeted me. He said, "Do you remember me, ma'am?" I said, "Oh yes, you're Mang Rick." He said, "I'm here because I'm finally owning the house that I was able to buy because of your father." And I said, wow, I mean, this man has been retired since 2004, and yet he returns to thank my father, to thank the company that allowed him to have a livelihood so that he could own the business. So these little experiences encourages me and deepens in me the vocation to the vocation that I found in this company.
Okay, so my epiphany or that particular moment happened when I was a bit young. I was in fourth grade. Okay, I was studying in La Salle Zobel, and we had the elections for the classroom, and we elected a class president, and I was elected vice president. Okay, and then midway through the year, our class president wasn't performing that well. And so the rest of the group or the class or my classmates decided to impeach the class president. And of course, the next person to be in line was the VP or the vice president. Okay, so I was the new president for the second half or the remainder of the year. And I realized one thing. I realized that if you have the power to influence and inspire people, you should use it for the better. Ever since I was young, like I mentioned, I was always into different clubs and organizations, and I was into art as well. And I believe that you can use those particular channels or tools to influence others, particularly the youth and the younger generation, because you see, the millennials and the younger people, they respond differently. And you have to use a different approach. So I think that's part of my advocacy, and I try to apply it in the business as well. When we do training programs, when we conduct seminars, etc., I try to make it as engaging and as youthful as possible. So whether it be within the company or outside the company, that's part of my personal vocation, to inspire others and influence them to do better things and live a better life. Thank you.
So let me ask a second question. Maybe we can start by Rafaela, if you like. Now, I would wonder whether you feel that you got some heritage from your parents. So something that you really would like to continue in your life. This is the first part of the question. And the second part, we heard that to being too faithful to the tradition is the largest way of betrayal. So the second question is what you would like to do differently from your parents in your life, in your experience, or in your business. So what is the heritage and what is what you would like to change? The first expression, the heritage, l'herencia, l'eredità. So what the tradition gave you as a legacy. Yeah, legacy is a better word. Do you feel comfortable with this question, or
Yeah. Yeah, let me think.
maybe if someone else would
Yes.
like to start?
Maybe I'll start. Our family has a tradition of sharing not just our excess, but sharing what is at the core of our lives. For example, we share our house to friends. We share our house to our employees. Even sometimes they don't have we have workers in the provinces who need to be in Manila for a short period of time, then they can stay in our house. We eat together, we share our food with them. My grandmother used to cook the meals for all of the employees. I mean, they had like 7, 8 employees. So obviously we cannot do that now, but we continue on with the tradition by giving opportunity, because our business is meat, and meat is relatively expensive for the average Filipino minimum wage worker. So what we do is we give them a lot of opportunities to try our products, as much as we can. Like we have a new product, we do product sampling, etc. And then we give them gifts in the form of meat so they can share that also with their family. So we try to give a little bit of ourselves. But these days, because we are very much into training, especially culture building, we are sharing with them our home. So we converted one of our homes into a training facility specifically for culture building programs. So they get experience, the place where we live, and they get to, to lie on our beds, literally. So yeah, that's what I would like to see to continue on. It's getting more and more difficult as the company grows bigger and geographically dispersed. It's a challenge, but I think we can live up to that challenge. I think it's very important because you cannot just talk about tradition or family culture and company culture without giving people a real experience of that life. But what I would like to see changed is the abilities of a person and then pushing them too much to the point of incompetence. And that really, really breaks people. Because my father is very entrepreneurial, he has a tendency to, when he sees potential in a person, then he tends to give a lot of opportunities for that person to grow, to the point that that person it already has a limitless scope, and also but not being given adequate support to carry out the gigantic tasks that have been put on their table. So in that sense, when the person already feels that he is no longer capable, then it destroys the belief of that person in himself. So that has been something characteristic of our family business, and definitely I would like to have that changed.
Okay, it's difficult for me because my parents are both here. um, can somebody give them headphones? No. Yeah. What I've admired from both my parents from the very start was their generosity. And I'm not surprised that they were one of the first to respond to Kiara's challenge in 1991. So, and I think the bank's vision is rooted in that culture of giving. So that definitely, I would like to preserve. And right now, I am working with my husband. He's also part of the bank, and I think we both share that feeling, share that belief that we need to preserve that. What I would like to change. No, actually, I'm pretty lucky because my parents, they let us start to implement these changes already, and little by little, they're giving us the freedom to implement things the way we feel things should be implemented. So like my mom, she's a she's a micromanager. She gets she because of her passion, she likes to get involved in projects, and sometimes up to this very smallest detail. And because of this, she her time is eaten up, and she becomes very busy, and in the end it's also very tiring and all that. That's one of the things that I try not to fall into. And I tell my mom that we are developing our people, our managers, so we need to be able to give them that freedom to decide. Let them make mistakes. It's okay, and sometimes it's also difficult for me because in a way sometimes I'm also a perfectionist. But I figured, after seeing her and after seeing how busy and tangled it really gets, that sometimes it's really better to step back and let the people decide. And as Jojo mentioned, there are, in this day and age, there are different ways to run your business or to get to your customer. And I think we are actively doing that, to make sure that what we do is relevant for the market, or what the programs that we do inside the organization are still relevant for our people, are still very relatable. I actually like Anouk's talk yesterday, when all of a sudden the concept of EoC was became very fluid, because before the Congress, I was telling my husband, it's very, very challenging to become that perfect EoC enterprise when you're a bank. You have regulators, this competition is very stiff. You're looking at your ratios all the time, and still, you have to follow this paradigm. I used to look at EoC as something like, so there's the normal company, there's a company that does corporate social responsibility, there's a social enterprise, and then there's EoC. The most difficult. But after Anouk's talk, I had that realization that no, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be that hard. And it's not that it doesn't matter how perfectly EoC you are, but what matters is going back to the original question. So I think that's also something that I would like to bring to the organization. Maybe because before we had a different concept of what EoC was and how strict it was and how high up there it was. And I would like to, bring it down to that level where everyone can relate to it and everyone can realize that it's not that hard. So, there.
So at first, this legacy for me was kind of scary, and I felt a lot of responsibility. But then when I decided to work in other places, after 4 years, I realized working in other companies and learning and with them, I discovered that the legacy was a blessing that I could live, and it was also like a blessing responsibility. And I don't know, something that I try to do differently. I think that everyone, I think that we have to trust more in young people, because we have a lot to learn, we know that, but we can also help a lot. And this is something that I don't work with them anymore, but I always try to remember them, and also in my work to trust, and yeah.
I think the legacy for me would be the EoC, to bring it ahead in the company. Also because I saw that it is the only way for us. Like, I was sharing in the beginning that when I entered, I was in the mindset of getting business done. So I put up policies and procedures, no? And then because of that, the culture changed and everybody missed my father. And so, and so I realized the only way is really to love the people in the company. And this should be the legacy, the culture of giving that I should be able to bring ahead. And I also see that it's also a norm that is starting to be present in our company, because I remember a few months ago, I received a call from our logistics manager, and she was asking me, what is our policy in ending contracts with our delivery men? And I said, actually, technically now, since they're no longer our employees, we can actually terminate them with just a 1-day notice, as it is written also in the contract, no? But I said, but maybe you can ask him to come over, because this delivery man apparently was not delivering. We have been receiving complaints from subscribers who have not been receiving the newspapers and magazines, no? So I told the logistics manager, maybe you can ask, like what my father would do. You ask them to come over and let's find out what's wrong. So this is what she did. She set an appointment with the delivery man. And then I received an email. She said, the delivery man did not come. I will start looking for someone to replace him, no? So I agreed with her, because we were able to give her a chance to come over and to see what's the problem, how we can help him. And then the following day, I saw the supervisor who has been actually working with my father longer than the logistics manager, no? And then I asked him, so have you found someone to replace the delivery man? He said, no, ma'am. Since he was not able to come over to the office, I went to him. And I asked, what's wrong, what's happening? And he found out that it was because since they are now, he has now a lot of, since they're not anymore regular employees, he took on other things to do. And so he was not able to manage time. So, he talked to him and said, no, you have to remember. So here I see, that it's something, the values have been passed on to me and to the employees of getting out of their way to build this relationship with the delivery man. No? So if there's anything that I would like to change, Fides was talking about the generosity of our parents. I've always felt that my parents have been too generous with the people, in the company. But I feel that we have to. It should not be a dole out at a certain point. We have to. Maybe if there's anything that I would like to change is also to train the people, and not to train, but to find a way to make them see that this love has to go back. It's not just I am the one being helped, and I help my family, but I want that the love. I wish to arrive to that point when there's this reciprocity already, no? And then yesterday, more on the practical side, we heard the word inclusive growth. Because for many years, our delivery men have been employed as regular employees. And because of the crisis, we had to change their contracts on a per delivery. So we pay them as they deliver. What the amount, the volume of magazines and newspapers they have. And then I said, wait, this is an opportunity. At first we felt bad because they've lost a regular income. But later on, we found out that this delivery man, since there's a group of them, they engage one another. They help other delivery men, since now they have to get big volumes so that they can earn the same amount as when they were delivery men, no? But they cannot deliver it by themselves if they get big volumes. So now they ask other delivery men to help them. And I realized, wait, we're talking about inclusive growth. Maybe we can teach the delivery men who work with us how to start a small business, no, with this delivery men, and then they can become our official sub-distributors. I mean, it's just an idea. I haven't told my dad about it yet. but yes, this is something that we can do.
Before I proceed, I just want to say something to the parents, no, to our parents here. First, we'd like to thank you for involving us in your businesses. And number two, we want to say that we love you. Okay, so this is all in the spirit of sharing our experiences. Huh? Oh. Okay, I love you, ma. So one thing that I would say that I'd like to continue from the practices or the values of my parents would be generosity. Okay, so it holds true, no, for the most of us that our parents have been generous. Yes, and I do appreciate it that we are able to help other people. No, after all, if you're not able to help other people, what good is your life in this world? No, that's something that crosses my mind all the time. So we want to help people. Okay, so generosity is definitely something that we would want to carry on and continue. But the thing that I would like to change, now this is echoing what Pinky said, would be too much generosity. No? At times, we do have a tendency to do that. Why? Because when we give to other people, we feel good also, right? It makes us feel good, it makes the other person feel good. And therefore, we have a tendency to ride the momentum. Okay? But if you're looking at a business, it has to be a balance between profitability and charity. So that's something that we would like to work on. As of the moment, we still do not know how to strike that perfect balance, but it should definitely be part of the plan for the future, because I think that's the only way that we can continue and make the way that we help other people and to keep our company sustainable. Okay? Thank you.
So I think it is time to conclude, but also in your name, I would like to thank you very much for your frankly speaking, for the openness, for the deep sharing, and in particular for listening to this voice and making the changes that are necessary to move on EoC in the future. So thank you so much.
Were you in the youth forum? Or was your brother?
It was my brother.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now we prepare for Mass. But before we have Mass, we would like to call, there was a particular request made by Paul, the Korean. So we would like him to have a moment to say something to all of you.
Good morning. I am Paul from Korea. And for being faithful carers, sons and daughters, and having wonderful grace time. During these days, I am able to understand how to see poverty and how to solve it by the way of EoC, especially becoming another Noah. But what matters is not to listen, but to put it into practice, especially visiting the small community supported by Banco Kabayan. I am deeply moved. And at the same time, I am troubled by the remembering the word of life last month, saying like this: Avete fatto a uno. Tutto quello avete fatto a uno di miei fratelli più piccoli, l'avete fatto a me. So, okay. So,
What you did to the least of my brethren, you did unto me.
So, I appeal you sincerely. During at Mass, we can give some money for Bukas Palad, which cares many poor families. I appeal you sincerely. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. So upon Paul's request, we'll pass on the collection basket specifically for that purpose, that intention. So we'll prepare for Mass.